Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers. I'm your instructor for NE 150, and this is Module 7. We're modeling the high poly and sci-fi crate, and we're going to be modeling a large and a small crate, high poly. Now, this is where we left off. We left off where we finished up the low poly large crate and the low poly small crate. So we're going to be making sure that we're in this scene, okay? We had combined these and made them smaller, so I'm going to turn those off. I have those in a layer. And then we're going to create, and then we're going to go into our medium poly, which we call a medium poly, which is the large crate with the edge loops that we just created from the tutorials in Module 7. So what we're going to do is, if you remember, we're going to go over 3 from this point, 1, 2, 3, and delete everything. So this is going to be fairly simple for you guys. This will be very fast. The high poly crate was difficult to do for the large one. This one's we're going to use that to create a smaller crate. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the front view. Again, this will be pretty quick. So I'm going to go in here to the face. I'm going to delete everything over, and I'm going to go over 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to delete those. Okay. All right. With that done, I'm going to go in here and select that. I'm going to go and click on the center pivot under the poly modeling shelf. I'm going to hit the W key so we can see the move tool. So hold the D key as in David and V key as in Victor, and then move it over, and it will snap to the vertex right there. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hold down the D key and the V key and then move that arrow over, okay, until it snaps over to the side here. D is in David, V is in Victor. Okay, both holding those keys down at the same time, I can move that, and it will snap to the vertices. Okay, once I snapped it to the vertex, then I'm going to go click on Grid Snap right here. Click on Grid Snap up here, and I'm going to move that over so it's perfectly aligned to the center. Okay, notice I didn't move this anywhere but this way, so we're just moving it this way. Okay. So that's a little tip and trick that we used for the first one. And so what I'm going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and mirror that over. Okay. So let's go to the perspective view. And so now we're going to go over to Mesh, and we're going to go to Mirror. Okay. And we are going to Edit and Reset. Okay. We want to combine with the original. Okay, merge border vertices, yes. Automatic, yes, I suppose so. X, yes, we're in the X, and we're going to do in the negative, so that's good. And let's go ahead and mirror that. And there we go. What it was supposed to do was merge all the vertices. Now, what I'm worried about is that we've got these edge loops which are very close together. Look at that. Very close together. So I've got to make sure everything in the center did merge properly. So I'm going to go underneath here and just double check. Now if you notice that your merge, okay, if those vertices are merging together and collapsing in on each other, what you might want to do is to set your tool, okay, so hold down the space bar before you do this. You have to do, if this does not do well and you have vertices that are like these lines closing together, if it looks kind of like this, let me give you an example. If it does something like this, then that can be a problem. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go back on that. So what you want to do is you want to go in here to Edit Mesh and go to Merge. Right there, merge, go into the option box, and set this higher than 0.01. Set it to 0.001, and then it should work just fine. Okay? Alright, that's the only problem I can see that you would have. I'm going to double check this. I'm going to go to Display, and I'm going to go to Heads Up Display, I'm going to go to poly count, and we're going to check the center here. Okay, we're going to check the center. We're going to select that vertex, just marquee select it. Now I'm going to hit the forward key, just make sure that nothing else is selected behind it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to select, marquee select just the one, marquee select this one right here in the center, just to see. Now it looks like I'm getting something from behind, okay, right? So I'm going to deselect that one from behind, and notice that I've only got one, okay? So there's a lot of vertices here, as you can see. Now I'm not too worried about that, because it's going to be a high poly anyway. And this is going to work perfectly. You can see how fast that was. Way faster than the large crate, obviously, because we had to do that from scratch, right? This one we used the high poly, or the medium poly that we just created, and we were able to create this crate from that. All right, so this is awesome. This works really, really well. And so, and when we hit the 3 key, you can see that we've got a nice smooth, and we don't see any creases here. Now, if you see a crease right here, that means it did not merge very well with this, and you might have to do it by hand. Well, to do it by hand, it's pretty easy if you have to do that. If they didn't merge well, you just marquee select a strip down the middle, and you can go to Edit Mesh and go to Merge, and then make sure this is 0.001, and then click on Merge, and that should merge all the vertices together. Okay? Alright, let me know if you guys have any issues or problems. I'm happy to help you. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is I think we are going to go ahead and get your deliverables all set up. We're going to use the Module 6 deliverables video. So you're going to do the exact same screenshots and renders. In fact, you're probably going to use the same scene that you're using now, you know, for the low poly. And I've got my so watch that video and use the same exact template lighting template that I got you. You're gonna have to do the same thing you did with the low poly with the high poly. Alright, so just watch that and continue, and you're gonna have to duplicate this and then smooth it at 2 so you can bring it over into Mudbox or Substance Painter, whichever you decide you want to use. I prefer going into a sculpting program. Substance Painter is a little easier, but I still think I get better results with Mudbox, because with the high poly in Mudbox, I'm able to bake the maps that I need for smart materials, and I love using smart materials. So that's just my personal opinion. And anyway, so I'll see you guys in the deliverable section, and you're going to want to duplicate this and put it in a layer. Take this, and so this will be your original medium poly. Okay, just call it that. And alright, so we'll take this one, and then we'll go into mesh and smooth, and we'll smooth this one at 2, and that'll give us a very high poly. And this is what you'll use to bring into Mudbox. So you always want to duplicate your objects, just because you want to have a safety net. You want to give yourself a safety net, and that's really, really important. Okay, so I got my edge loops put away in a layer so I can come back to it if I want to, and I've got my low poly now in the center. Okay, this is where I've got it placed, and here's my high poly. So we have those together. Now what we need to do from here is we need to move this into the center. So I'm going to go ahead and move that directly in the center, and so we're good there. Let's select both of them together, both the high poly and low poly. Now remember, if you don't have your low poly in here, you have it in another scene, what you do is you open your scene up, and then you can export selection, go to export selection, and export that low poly, and then you can bring it, like open this scene back up here with your high poly, and you can go to File, Import that low poly into your high poly. The thing is, here's the trick, the low poly and the high poly have to occupy the same space, meaning that they have to be over on top of each other. That's what I mean by occupying the same space. Okay? So if I email you and say, hey, are your meshes occupying the same space? Then that's what that means. Okay? So they need to be right over top of each other. Okay? So I just kind of move them back and forth until they get where they need to be. Okay? Alright, so the best way to do that is to select both of them, okay, and center pivot, delete by type history, and freeze transformations. So when you do that, you can see that this is going to be directly right over top of the low poly. Okay? No problems there. Great, so the next thing you're going to do to get everything set up is you're going to save this object. Okay, you're going to export this object. You're going to go to File. You're going to go to Export Selection. Go into the option box and make sure you have File Type OBJ Export selected. When you do that, go ahead and Export Selection. And you're going to rename that Sci-Fi Crate. So Sci-Fi Crate underscore small underscore high underscore poly. Okay, so Sci-Fi Crate small high poly OBJ export. Select export selection. There we go. So let that export. And what we'll do is we'll turn that one off. Okay, and we're going to turn this one on, and we're going to go do the same thing. We're going to go to File, Export Selection. Okay. OBJ export, export selection, and we're going to do the same thing, name it the same exact name. So this was Sci-Fi Crate Small. So this is going to be Sci-Fi Crate Small Low Poly, LOW. So we just make that change there, and click Export Selection. So now the low poly is going to be unwrapped and UV mapped here in Maya, and the high poly, okay, that we sent out as an OBJ will be brought in, if I can find that again, Smi High, that will be brought into Mudbox to add the decals and all the details we want on there using alpha maps. Okay? Alright, so the next video will be applying those alpha maps to the high poly crate. The thing is, you can rewatch those videos and do the same thing for the low poly. So you'll probably apply the same kind of decals, but you won't have as many. Okay, this will go pretty quickly. Once you do the big one, then you do the small one and add the decals that you want on the small one. And it's really up to you how you want to design and add the decals to your crates. Alright, good luck, and I'll see you guys in the next module.